Okay, so I see Mitch is on as well. So my name is Stephanie. I'm the career counselor here at Union. And again, thank you for joining me tonight. So tonight's webinar is basically just an introduction into the master's programs that Union offers. And I'm going to be talking a little bit about them each. Not so much about the coursework of each one, but more how these master's programs can translate into the workforce and what can you do with these kind of majors once you're out there looking for a job. I also have Eldon Golden from the master's program. He is faculty, and I have William Lax as well. He is the director of the MSOL, so they will be here to answer any questions you guys may have as well. So let's get started. Ready. If my slides want to work. All right. So why even attend graduate school? Well, for numerous reasons. For some people, you might not have a choice. There are a lot of careers out there that in order to do them, you need to have a master's degree. So obviously this would be one of the main reasons why you would go ahead and get started in graduate school and getting a master's. But for those that don't require a master's program, there's also other reasons as well, or motivations. One would be to get greater employment opportunities. A master's degree is a very marketable degree. It gives you greater recognition and credibility in your field. And I always kind of see it as the middle ground. Sometimes the PhD might be in not all fields. In some, it may make you a little overqualified, and the bachelor's may make you a little underqualified. And I always see the master's as just a happy medium for some careers. There's also been a lot of studies that link master's degree people to actually enjoy their work a little bit more, which makes sense. When you finish with your bachelor's, you're usually a little younger, a little bit more undecided, where when you get your bachelor's, it's a little bit more specialized. You kind of already know what you're interested in and what you want to do. And one of the most obvious reasons would be to get the salary increase that usually comes along with getting your master's. A master's can increase your salary by about $10,000 a year, but this is, of course, varies with your work experience and with the other degrees that you hold. The national average for a bachelor's is about $42,877 a year, and the master's is about $55,000. But again, this is something that varies based on your previous education and your work experience and so on. A few misguided reasons that I just kind of wanted to go over as well for choosing to go to graduate school, because I have heard these reasons before. One is, oh, I'm uncertain about my future, so why not get a master's degree? And this is a terrible idea. A master's degree is a very big investment, and you should be certain that it's something you want to do. I've also heard people going back to school because the economy or the job market is bad. And though this might work for some, it's probably not the smartest decision for everybody. Experience goes hand in hand with education. So taking a break from getting work experience is sometimes not very smart to do for the sake of getting your education. Now, if you can manage to do both, then, well, that's a great idea. Loan deferral. Terrible idea. I don't even know why that's an excuse to get a master's degree, but I have heard that one as well. Of course, meeting the expectation of others, your master's should be your decision and no one else's. And making more money. And I think the important thing here to stress is that not all master's degrees are going to give you more money. For the most part, they will. But if this is your motivation behind it, make sure that in your industry and in your career that potential is there before going into it. So here's a quick list of the master's programs that we offer here at Union. We have the Master's of Arts in Clinical Mental Health Counseling, the Master's of Science in Organizational Leadership, or as we refer to, the MSOL. And then there's the Master's of Arts with concentrations in creativity studies, health and wellness, history and culture, leadership, public policy and social issues, and the literature and writing. So I'll briefly go over each one and hopefully give you some good information on what you can do with these majors. So I wanted to start with the Master's in Clinical Mental Health Counseling because I think it's the most straightforward. For the most part, if you get your Master's in the Clinical Mental Health Counseling degree, you're going to be a mental health counselor. What do these professionals do? Well, they help people manage and overcome mental and emotional disorders. The program itself is 20 months. And I'm confident to say that the job outlook for this degree in comparison to all the other ones is very, very good. You will have a really good time finding a job in this field. I think it has something to do with insurance companies now covering mental health. But it is a really good, it has very good positive job outlook. The salary range for this kind of position ranges between $40,000 and $67,000 a year. And again, this varies with experience and where you work. And I thought it was interesting to note the highest paid industries are in government, offices of healthcare practitioners, colleges, and insurance carriers. And I pulled up some salaries based on all the regions of our campuses, and they pretty much are the same, with Ohio and California having a little bit more than the other centers areas. A few of the other possible job titles you can look for when you have this kind of master's is a case manager. Case managers sometimes are very entry-level positions, so you'll see they only require a bachelor's, but there are other positions that, they might be called case manager 3 or case manager lead or something like that, that require a master's degree. You can also look for positions with the title therapist in it, mental health therapist, or some other sort of therapist, clinicians, anything with the word counselor, drug rehabilitation counselors, children's counselors, behavioral health counselors, social workers. Surprisingly, you don't always need the social work degrees. There are a lot of jobs in the social work field that accept this master's degree as well. A mental health specialist, you can be the clinical coordinator or the service managers in a community service center or social services center as well. The Master's in Organizational Leadership is a program that was developed to meet a request by the criminal justice students for graduate training in leadership. However, it was designed to meet those needs and also the needs of those who want to reach management positions as well. So even though we have a lot of law enforcement professionals in this degree, it's not just for them. This is a great degree for anybody who is trying to reach management or leadership type roles in their career. Working at hospitals, social service agencies, maybe they're self-employed. It's pretty endless, limitless opportunities in where you can become a leader or manager. I thought it was interesting to also share. I came across 2 articles recently. One was in the U.S. News, where they considered this type of degree one of the top 10 master's degrees that actually pays off. So there's a good return on investment with the MSOL program, and I think that's very important to share, considering that when you invest in a master's degree, you want to know that you're going to get your money back, right? And you want to get paid. And it was also considered one of the most affordable degrees to increase your income by Forbes magazine. And again, like all other careers, your salary will depend on the career path you take and other degrees or certifications that you might hold. So I've had a few students, actually just one in particular, who came from a business background, and they asked me, well, should I do my MBA or should I do my MSOL? And I think it's important to point out the differences between these programs. Union does not offer the MBA at this time, maybe sometime in the future, I'm not sure. But for somebody who is interested, it's important to just clarify between the two. So here's a quick introduction as far as, what is the difference. Overall, I think what you need to know is that The MBA is going to have a broader examination of the business world. So when you're taking classes for the MBA, you're going to be taking classes on management, marketing, operations, finance, accounting, all these type of math kind of classes. Where in the MSOL, the value is placed more on the leadership function. So you're going to learn how to use more personal and creative approach to leadership, and you'll be learning the philosophy and psychology as it relates to employee and organizational activities. The MSOL is a great alternative for somebody who maybe wants to develop the leadership expertise but doesn't want to commit to the constraints of a traditional MBA program, or they just want to pursue a different managerial approach. So I think that will give you kind of a good synopsis of what the difference is between those two programs. I did some research after I came across that article on US News that said, these type of degrees like the MSOL really pay off. And I was shocked to find that it's actually very true. As you can see, I called up a few different organizations, and the salary jumps are very impressive. For a district manager position at a food chain, somebody with the bachelor level education and the same amount of experience for both, just so that we're clear. One was 50 to 55, and then it jumped to 65. The HR manager jumped from 80 to 100. The nonprofit manager was the only one that kind of wasn't that impressive. I mean, that could be maybe due to funding or, however it is that they get their money. I don't know. But for the most part, overall, the salaries really did increase in all the places that I called to inquire. So I just wanted to share that as well. So the Masters of Arts has 5 different concentrations. They are each very versatile degrees, and they're versatile in that they'll give you a lot of flexibility in what you actually want to do with them after you graduate. You can align your coursework with your professional goals in each of these concentrations. They're all 18-month programs. And these degrees are best suited for those who are maybe changing the direction of their careers. Maybe they got their bachelor's in something and now they want to go in another direction, or they want to add another skill or expertise onto their bachelor's. Or maybe you just want to advance in your career. You have a bachelor's in history and you're ready to take it to the next level with the master's in history. Or, of course, you can use these as stepping stones toward your PhD work. So the Master's of History and Culture, I have heard a lot from not students, but just from parents and people who feel that any kind of history degree is not a very marketable degree. They'll say they love history, but they need a major that can get them a job, or that it's not a very vocational driven degree. And there's a big misconception about history degrees. History degrees are actually very marketable. And I think the issue is that people don't really understand the skills that you're walking away from when you get this kind of degree. So I listed some of the skills on here, such as, research and analyzing and interpreting the past. That's important. If you work somewhere, you want to make sure you're not repeating the same mistakes from the past, and somebody who's able to really analyze and have those kind of skills. Writing skills, critical thinking, and communication skills. These are all very marketable skills that would go on a resume. If you actually check out a website called whatcanidowithmymajor.com, you can access this through Campus Web. You'll be stunned to see how many career opportunities, career options, industries, career titles there are on here for people with a bachelor or master's in history. And I just thought it was important to also add the Bureau of Labor and Statistics had said that only earning a bachelor degree in history will have limited opportunities. So I went further to do a little research. Oh, will this move? Sorry about that, but basically it says here, looking beyond the history teacher and historian. Everybody knows that with a history degree, you can be a teacher, right? Or a historian. Two fabulous careers. Historians, for the most part, need a master's degree. There are very limited jobs out there if you only have the bachelor's, which goes back to what the Bureau of Labor and Statistics had mentioned. You can make about $52,000 a year as a historian. Teachers, of course, the salaries vary. But I wanted to look at other possible careers with your history degree. And one job title that I kept seeing over and over was an archivist. They make about $43,000 a year. This is a job with a great market, steady job growth rate. They work at courthouses, colleges, libraries, historic sites, and many other institutions. Then, of course, there's a curator, a records manager. And you see for the curator, there is a big salary jump as well for the master's degree. Maybe you're somebody who comes from a business background. In that case, you can be a sales analyst or a management consultant. And so a few other areas I just wanted to mention was working for the national parks, tour guides, museum guides. You can work in journalism. All those skills that you acquire from being a history major translate well into journalism as a reporter, a writer, editor, etc. Working in public history and historic preservation, I think, is actually pretty cool. You know, when they kind of restore a building and they need somebody with the expertise and knowledge to make sure that everything is being restored as it was. I don't know the job title for that, but there is a person who makes sure that, you know, everything is being restored appropriately. So there is a lot you can do with your history master's. The Master's of Writing and Literature has a lot of flexibility in choosing the focus that you want, just like all the other programs. I picked a few that I thought were interesting, which were cinema studies, composition theory and practice, feminist and gender studies, approaches to literature. There is a full list on the MyUnion website if you want to check that out. So what do you do with a master's in writing and literature? Well, you can definitely be a writer, right? That's what everybody thinks of. So we'll start with that. Writers. The job outlook for writers is not that great only in newspaper, magazines, and journal publishing. But we're in the future, right? Things are going online. So the good news is that online publications are growing in numbers and sophistication. So if you want to be a writer these days, it's very important that you have the web and the multimedia experience and skills. And that is what makes you marketable these days as a writer. So there's still writing jobs out there, but they're now online. So it's important to make sure you know how to do that as a writer. Where else is your degree valued? So many places. Let's start media and journalism. There are so many more job titles that I couldn't even fit in a bubble on here, but a reporter, content editor, publishing, you can be an editor as well. And just to kind of give you, information on what would be entry level, there are editorial assistants, editor assistants, associate editors, the list goes on. Of course, you can work also in education and training. I'm pretty sure that the master's, it makes you eligible to teach on the community college level. So maybe you can teach like English Comp 1 or something like that. And believe it or not, advertising and public relations, there are so many copywriter positions out there. Actually, I have one now in Miami that I'm trying to fill for a copywriter. So if anybody knows someone in Miami who's looking for a copywriting job, please email me. Public relations, communications manager, all great careers with a very good salary. The Master's of Creativity Studies, I found this to be very interesting, mainly because it's a fairly new field. Only a handful of universities are offering the master's, one being ours. And so what the Creativity Studies program is it encourages students to search out new and different ways of approaching, exploring, and understanding creativity. I came across a cool article the other day from the New York Times called Learning to Think Outside the Box. And it talked a lot about different programs offering the creativity studies and how this degree, is coming into all the schools and how the job market really is demanding creativity. That is a very buzzy word these days on resumes, and that the creativity studies program actually fits well with a lot of different careers, whether it be business, education, counseling. I thought it was pretty interesting. I don't know a lot about it, so it really opened my eyes to learning more about this field. So what can you do with this creativity studies master's? Well, there's a few career applications that I have learned based off the students who have come to Union and what they're using it for. One are the counselors, therapists. They want to know more about the therapeutics effects of art therapy. A lot of our students are actually teachers, whether it be art, music, general education. Maybe they need a master's degree, to get their salary augmentation or whatever it is, but they're not interested in the master's of education. Maybe they just want to utilize a more creative approach to teaching in the classroom, or they can take this to teach at the community college level where a master's is required. And then there are the professionals who are in the arts, writers, actors, directors, artists. These people want to either better understand their own creativity or they want to teach others about their creativity. So I mentioned not a lot of schools offer this program, so I wanted to kind of compare and show you what the differences are between Union and the other universities that offer this program. Buffalo State offers a problem-solving and business-oriented approach to the creativity studies, and they also actually offer a PhD. Drexel University is geared more towards educators, and Saybrook University is geared more towards psychology and that kind of approach. So what makes Union actually unique is that we have a very expansive approach where students actually design their curriculum to match their own particular interested approach. So if you're coming from a counseling field, you can have that psychology approach. If you're a teacher, you can have that education approach. Whatever it is that interests you and the approach you want to kind of design for yourself, you can do that here at Union. And so I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so the Masters of Health and Wellness prepares you for a career in educating and guiding others to live a healthier lifestyle. You'll walk out of here with the skills of knowing how to design, develop, and implement and manage health and wellness programs that affect lasting change. A lot of the students that enroll in this program are actually students who are preparing for the lactation consulting certification as well. You can work in numerous places with this degree. I provided a short list here, such as advocacy groups, wellness centers, gyms, parks and recreation, wellness coaching or consulting, worksite wellness, which was actually something new to me. So I found that interesting. I pulled up a few jobs from Indeed.com to kind of show you guys. A wellness outreach coordinator makes about $40,000 a year. Actually, no, this is a job post. So for this position, they're offering $40,000 a year. A master's is required in health education or related field, and they're looking for somebody with 2 years experience with wellness program planning. And wellness coach, this seems to be something a little bit more entry level. They're offering $36,000 a year only with a bachelor's, so I would assume with a master's it may be a little more, depending if you have experience or not. And one of the ones that really stood out to me that I thought was fun was the wellness director on a cruise ship. For this, only a bachelor's is required with 5 years experience. And remember, sometimes if you don't have the 5 years experience, a master's can supplement that when you're out there looking for a job. Patient health educator for family health center, bachelor's is required, master's preferred. And the last one, director of health and wellness for an assisted living facility. So you see there's a lot of different places where you can kind of work. I mean, even on a cruise ship, who would have known? The last program is the Masters of Leadership, Public Policy, and Social Issues. And so like the other ones, there is a flexibility in choosing what you want to focus on with this program, whether it be education reform and leadership, environmental policies, health policy. The full list, again, is on myunion.edu. So whatever it is that you're interested in, or maybe you want to take your career in, you can align your coursework with your own professional goals. So what do you take with you? What are the skills you acquire by joining this master's program? Ultimately, you learn how to identify the pressing problems and issues facing our societal institutions. You have the ability to evaluate, implement, and create effective policy change across the private and public sectors. And you gain skills in policy analysis, decision making, effective leadership, and you also learn about ethical leadership and social responsibility. What can I do with this major? You can work in public administration, human resources, international management, government, professional positions related to health, environment, law enforcement, anywhere where there's policies, basically. The salaries look good too. I figured the average salary for the careers with this kind of major is about $53 a year. So, more or less, it could be higher or lower. That's a good ballpark figure. So now you know all the degrees that we offer. So now what can you do now as an undergrad? I gave you all this information, right? And now you're kind of deciding, well, what am I going to do? I highly recommend researching. There are so many great websites out there, and I have compiled a good list on the Career Services campus webpage site. I have some of them listed here. One of them is payscale.com. I actually used a lot of the information on tonight's webinar. I got it from Payscale. And there you can kind of calculate what you should be getting paid. You can get career information, salary information, information on degrees as well. The site What Can I Do With My Major is a wonderful website for just getting ideas on what can you do with my major. And it really helps you to think outside of the box. Just like, sometimes you think, oh, okay, I have a writing degree, what can I do? Well, there's so many things you can do, and aside from being a writer. And this is a great website to kind of help you think about that and think outside the box. The Bureau of Labor Statistics is a great website for just general information on job outlook and, what's the likelihood of you finding a job, maybe some similar occupations that are related to the one that you're interested in. BuzzFile is a new one where you can new one to me anyway, where you can locate employers by major and by your region. Looking on the job boards like Indeed or Monster is a great way to see what's out there and where you can apply with your degree. LinkedIn, Glassdoor, CareerInfo.net, these are all great resources. And these are all, again, listed on the Campus Web website. Something else you should definitely be doing now as an undergraduate is networking. Developing positive relationships with everybody, your faculty, your advisors, with your career counselor, classmates, coworkers, manager, your internship supervisor, volunteer coordinator, everyone who falls into that professional relationship. These are people you want to keep in touch with. You can also reach out to graduate students if you have any questions. Those are great people to network with. I know it's hard when we are on an online university, but sometimes, on those forums in class, you kind of communicate with each other. That's a good way to meet them, and you can ask, maybe if you can ask them some questions. Getting involved with professional organizations in your field. If you don't know any, you can ask me, contact the Career Center, and I'd be more than happy to give you some information on professional organizations that relate to your field. Keeping in contact with all your networks. I mean, LinkedIn is such a great tool for keeping in contact with the networks you already have, and even getting new networks. So if you don't use LinkedIn, I highly recommend that you check it out. Getting experience and getting your foot in the door, in my opinion, is probably one of the most important things you could do as an undergraduate. Whether it's volunteer work, doing informational interviews, job shadowing, looking for a part-time or entry-level type employment in a place where you would like to see yourself working in the future, getting an internship. As long as you get that foot in the door and getting some type of good experience, it will help your resume and make you become a marketable candidate. So when you're done with your master's, you have some experience and you already have contacts and networks. And lastly, talking to your career counselor. That's what we're here for. We have access to resources if you really want to talk and get some guidance on deciding which is the right major for you. I'd be happy to set an appointment with anybody who wants to talk about that. If you want to maybe locate an internship or volunteer opportunity, even employment, we're here for that as well. So that's pretty much it for me. If anybody has any questions, I have Eldon Golden and then Bill Lax, who would be happy to take questions. Oh, we have a question. Linda, can you hear me? Or can I hear you? I guess should be the question. Let's see.
Here, can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Okay.
Okay.
So you asked, how does the Masters in Leadership differ from the MSOL?
Right.
Okay, that's a great question. I was actually trying to do a little research on that, and I wanted to kind of show that today. I'm hoping that maybe, Bill, if you can maybe try to address that question for her.
Sure. Are you able to hear me, Linda?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great. Let me see if I can. How's that? I think the MSOL is a degree that's been designed for people in management or want to be managers, and also senior level managers. So for people who are wanting to have a full understanding of organizational development and how organizations themselves work. So it is both a theory intense program and a very practical and applied program. And often people come there who are already embedded in some corporation or company or a nonprofit organization, or are wanting to move into a different kind of organization, and they want to develop the knowledge and skills to have a full understanding of how organizations work and carry the big picture. There's a great deal of emphasis on personal development and the development of emotional intelligence and relational leadership, as well as the skills that are embedded in management. I think my understanding of the MA, and perhaps Eldon can talk about this a little bit from his perspective. I think the MA has a slightly different emphasis, and it is Eldon. I think the best thing to do is to have you describe that program in the context of this. Would that be all right?
Sure. Can pop up. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. The MA program, I think the biggest difference between the MSOL, or from the perspective of the MA program, is the MA program in general. It's a 36 credit program. The first 12 credits are traditional online classes. The remaining 24 credits, the final 2/3 of the degree program, is entirely formulated as independent studies between the student and the instructor. So you can go in a very specific direction that interests you. If you are particularly interested in looking at water policy, or if you are particularly interested in looking at police issues, if you are particularly interested in what it means to be a leader in, name a profession, you can do that in the MA program. It allows a great deal of flexibility and allows you to focus and study exactly what you want to study.
Yeah, and I think in comparison to that, the MSOL provides a capstone project in which people are more focused on applying the theoretical knowledge that they're learning to usually a single organization. Whereas as Eldon is describing it as more policy-based and more broad-based across an industry or industries, the MSOL is more focused on what is your organization, or what organization are you wanting to move into or to develop. That would be one specific difference.
Does that answer your question, Linda?
It does. So it looks, from what I'm hearing of this, is that the MA you really need to have a specific focus in mind before going into that program.
Yeah, not necessarily. One of the first courses that you take, it's a 6-credit course, is called Disciplinary Foundations, and in that course you look at the breadth of the issues and the breadth of the knowledge that you need to know if you're going into that academic area, if you're studying that academic area. From that point on, when it becomes independent studies, you progressively get narrower and narrower and narrower. We certainly do have MA students who come into the program knowing exactly what they want to study, and that's great and wonderful. We also have a fair number of students who figure that out as they go through the program. That's not, you don't have to know exactly what you want to study when you come in.
Okay, that helps me, because when I'm, at the beginning of this, Stephanie, you asked me what focus was I looking at, and the only thing that I could come up with, other than just from the specific list of master's programs that you offer, is that what I'm looking for, my career choice, is some blend between education and criminal justice. I work in a traditional public high school now, but that's not where I want to stay, but I would like to stay in education. So I didn't know if that was, if this was the program, if I'm looking down the right path, or if what you all think of that.
I don't teach in the public policy and leadership major of the MA. I teach in the creativity studies part of the MA program. But I mean, it sounds like something that's certainly within the realm of possibility. Yeah, I would need to refer you to one of the instructors that teach in the MA in that major in the MA. But yeah, it sounds like something worth exploring.
Okay.
Yeah. Linda, I would be more than happy to have an offline conversation with you about that, because the question has come up of, is the MSOL relevant for educators, and there's been some a variety of views on that, because the educational system is often fairly fixed and set by certain external rules, but the management issues that take place within education, the knowledge and skills that we teach, I think, are very applicable to that. So I'd be more than happy to have a conversation with you at another time about this.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, great. Are there any other questions from anybody else? Last call. All right. All right, well, thank you for everybody for joining us tonight. Thank you, Eldon and Bill. I appreciate you coming on. If anybody has any questions that come up later, feel free to email careerservices@myunion.edu. I can also give you the email address for the right faculty member that pertains to the program that you are interested in as well.
Yeah.
So thank you, everybody, and have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.